I don't know how you can unmix the coffee and the cream, right? I don't know how you can't bring your whole human, authentic self to work, which is personal, you, invest that, which is your time, and not have that be personal.
Buckle up. You've just hit the play button on The Notice, a podcast from Otava with hosts TJ Houske and Melissa Lock. Expect to laugh, nod vigorously, and maybe even fist pump as we dive deep into the tech that powers your business, leadership that uplifts, and how culture can make your company the kind of place where everyone wants to clock in. So if you're ready for insights that stick and laughs that last, you've got a seat at our table. Welcome to The Notice, where tech gets personal and growth is a group project. Let's get started.
Mo, we're back, baby.
Can you believe it?
Season 2. I mean, we had to use our own credit card, but they picked us up. We're ready to roll.
Just proves you just have to take the first step. It's just,
That's it.
First leap, and here you are.
That's right. Like, it's just, make a commitment, do a decision, as we say, and anything is possible.
No matter how terrible it is, just stick with it.
That's right. Consistency is king. Even if you're awful, just be consistent, right? It works out. Well, geez, we have a lot to talk about today, right? We're super stoked. Who's our special guest today, by the way? Who do we have today?
The one and only Brianhulman.
Right.
Yep, our Vice President of Product and Business Development. He's a rock star. He's very smart. And he has some really good information to share with us about Broadcom, the acquisition with VMware.
Yep.
So, yeah.
He's great. He's ranked, too. He's like top 50,000 in a specific age group demographic for tennis.
Yeah. I read that.
Yeah. He's great. Amateur status, but he's definitely, like I said, he's top 50,000 in the world. So excited to hear about his tennis. Well, man, I'm so excited. I know that, I'm getting my voice back. Unfortunately, if you're tuning in, I was sick. So be ready to not sound like Mickey Mouse. That'll be good. But today we're talking a little bit about the VMware Broadcom, or Broadcom VMware. Sorry, Hoekelman. In their acquisition, 2-year journey. Now there's a lot of activity, major partner program changes at the tail end of 2023, and a lot of things that are coming to pass for the new transition, which is exciting, new season here in 2024 for that. So Brian's going to spend some time. We're going to talk about that. And then Mo, we get to talk about fun stuff that we love, leadership, culture, business development. So we're stoked here. And we've got a lot of that this year in season 2. So why don't we jump in? So I think we're starting with shout-outs, right? We're starting with shout-outs. Who's your shout-out? Who do you want to put out there?
Well, so I have just started using a Mac. And, this whole teach old dogs new tricks. I don't know about that. I am struggling, but I am confident I will get there. But I wanted to shout out to Charles Naranjo. He is our lead on the desktop team, and he swooped in and saved the day and helped me get into Microsoft and Teams. I was having some difficulty. It was not being nice to me, and he screen shared with me and let's just do this together, and held my hand the whole way. And so I just want to give a shout out to him for being so kind and dummying it down a little bit for me.
It's awesome. How did you use any bad words that nobody would know about when you started trying the Mac for the first time?
No, I did not, TJ. I would not do that. Thank you very much.
I wouldn't want to have to report you to people in culture,
Right.
So that's awesome. I'm proud of you for trying new things. I know what it's like. It's different, right? So totally get that. Well, my shout out, it might sound a little bit different. I'm going to shout out our sales organization. And I know a lot of folks will be like, sales? Like, really? You're going to do that? Yeah, I'll tell you why. So change is hard, but that doesn't mean hard is negative. So you might want to rewind and play that a couple of times. Negative is a choice. Hard is just the reality that anytime you're doing something new, when it first starts out, it's hard. And then over time, it becomes easy, which does not mean simple, right? Little bit of leadership nuggets in there for you. So we put a challenge out to our sales organization mid last year when I stepped into this new role, and then obviously we launched the notice, and we had a lot of really cool things going on. And that was, hey, we want to become more to the industry and to our customers. And in that, we're asking you to really take on our mantra against differentiation and people orchestration, and that is learn. We want you to learn even more in an industry that is rapidly changing. And I don't know the actual numbers. I didn't come prepared with those. I apologize. But we skilled up, I think it was a good, 60 certifications. It was nuts.
Yes,
it was nuts.
They killed it. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it was unbelievable. And so I'm excited to say, and we've received this feedback from some very large partner technology integrators, that we are, I know, one of two or maybe the only that has an entire sales team certified in specific Microsoft Azure certifications. Our entire sales team, including solutions architecture, our technology, our field CTOs and overlays, our sales leadership, our executive leadership team, that has taken the challenge, so the bull by the horns, and said, we're going to do it. And has gotten certified in some advanced technologies, both from how to solve business issues and outcomes, but how to talk about that and answer difficult questions that customers have so that they can get the best value, out of their investment. So we're proud of that and proud of them. And we're seeing those results. The quality of conversations has drastically shifted. The opportunities in our pipeline, which is just representative of folks that we're going to get to help serve in this space, has grown tremendously. And so we're really excited about that. So proud of you, sales organization, and your leadership, and hope that the rest of the organization reaches out and gives you a round of applause that you earned. So well done. So that's my shout out.
So we do get to talk about something fun this episode.
Yeah.
Do you think that we, at work or in business, should it just be strictly business, or should, should it be personal? Should there be personal topics discussed at work? What do you think?
I mean, the middle school mindset that sneaks in when I think strictly business is like Tom Cruise in socks and a shirt sliding across the living room floor, right? So I mean, I gotta reel that back, because my first moment was like, I think I could still do that without breaking a leg. So strictly
and the people
business,
in culture, right? The people in culture was like, please leave your pants on.
Right. Especially on camera.
Right.
Especially on camera, right? Like, I mean, for everybody here, right? I definitely have a shirt on from here up, right? So, yeah. So, no, I mean, it's a great question, right? I think I put a post out on this on LinkedIn. I try to be more consistent. It's hard with travel. That's an excuse. I need to be more consistent on social media to add thought and leadership nuggets out there. But yeah, direct answer to your question, I don't know how you can unmix the coffee and the cream, right? I don't know how you can't bring your whole human, authentic self to work, which is personal, you, invest that, which is your time, and not have that be personal, which is a reflection of your work. Now that sword cuts both ways, right? And so it can personally reflect positive if you bring your whole self and you have the right focus and you understand what it means to be a professional, honing your craft and investing that into your career. And the business gets to experience the best of that, and you get to experience the best in you and growth. And then equally, it can reflect poorly on you if you bring the negative side of yourself, which might be the excuse maker, the lazy person, whatever else, right? So you got to make that choice first. But for me personally, I've always believed that all you can be is the best version of you, and improve on that daily and bring that whole you to work. And I think that that's very personal. And I think that there's boundaries, and we'll talk about that as we go through this segment. But for me, I believe work is just an extension of another area of your life, which is the full representation of you as a person, and it is quite personal. And the more personal that you get with people, which I think is another way of saying transparent, real, and authentic, I think the cooler it gets.
That's right.
So, yeah. How do you feel?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we even have this in our employee handbook that, be the best version of you. That's just really what we believe in. To come to work and to be treated that I'm not a human, it just doesn't resonate well with me. Like, it is personal. I do have a life. I am, human, and there are things that, fundamentally, I don't know how you build trust if you don't dig in a little bit deeper with folks beyond, the day-to-day task and get to know people. How do you help people get where they want to go if you don't know them? And I think that's a very core piece of just leading people, being a friend, having a connection. All of those are valuable. I think even Gallup, one of their questions on their survey is, do you have a best friend at work? So there's clear data-driven value to developing those relationships, which requires going into the personal parts of your life and making that connection, that you're happier, more productive, you treat your customers better, all those things if you have a best friend at work. So it's not just an opinion, there's real data behind it. So I definitely believe in that. Yeah.
I agree. Where do I rank? Am I like top 5 of your best friends? Because you have Sean, and you have like I got to be like in the top. I got Austin.
Yeah. Probably 3. Yeah, 4. Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. I love it. Hey, I made the speed dial list in the phone, so like that's pretty good.
That's right. I'm ranking up that's there. True. Yes. Like this is something TJ could answer. Help.
I love it. It's so good. Yeah, I think what's interesting. There's a lot of concepts that go with this, and you have so much wisdom in this through your journey and your career, but even generationally, right? Generations measured over, 20 years. And you think about when we were coming into the career space at that time, I was 7 years old, you were 5, right?
Right.
20 years ago. But you heard statements then that don't make sense now. So you heard statements like, well, business is business, personal is personal, or, keep your personal life at home, business here. And I think there's still elements of that you have to understand in context what that actually means. But even generationally, expectations have changed from employees to employer, that I think categorically we throw it in underneath diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? But I think it's really just people matters. So people matter and people matters, right? And, what I've seen, particularly in the range age 22 to probably early 30s right now, is there's more of an expectation of feeling a connectedness to work, something bigger than themselves, wanting to participate and be a part of something that is kind of like first element of consideration beyond compensation and benefits and, those kinds of things. So what's your take? Do you see that too? Because you do a lot more with that than I do, in my role.
Yes, there's a lot of research and articles that point to wanting a purpose more than collecting a paycheck. I want to do something bigger than me. I want to contribute to my community, or I want to make an impact in an area. And that's that's an important part of ESG and diversity and inclusion, some of those efforts. But it's just part of being connected to something bigger. And that's important. It's more valued with each generation, I feel like. Used to that wasn't that important. I'm just here, I have a job to do, head down, don't talk to me, I got things, I got to get done. And now it's like, well, what are we doing here? How am I making a difference? How does my job matter? Or play into the whatever it is we're doing. And so that's a big part of even talking about a job to a potential candidate. Why does this job matter to Otava, and why does it matter to our customers, and how does it make a difference? And it's important to connect those.
For sure. And I think certainly there's an industry element to that, right? Like segmentation is difficult, right? So, law has a specific expectation, and it might be slower to come around in some areas, rightfully so. The practice of law is very different and high stakes, right? In that as well. Medicine, government, education. We're in the tech sector, which is different. And then we have 2 different tech company types within one organization in Otava versus the broadband sides of our business. We even see nuances there, So when you add those in, but I think one thing that's kind of interesting, and I'm watching employees still learn through this when you say things like business versus personal, is there's got to be a meet in the middle, right? There's a responsibility for the employee to understand their role as a person and an employee in an organization, and what the employer does for them, right? Which is benefits and compensation and opportunity. And then I think there's a responsibility for the employer to mature and develop and evolve over time to recognize the generations have changed and what are those expectations and how to stay competitive. And so you can't really get away with, I think people do that when it's difficult. They use broad statements to try to end a conversation. They're like, well, it's not personal. It's just business. Okay, well, in that moment, I don't think people are going to receive it, not personal,
Right.
right?
That's right.
So, treat a human like a human all the time. And I think, you're going to have a better outcome. You can't control how they receive it, but you can absolutely control your thoughtfulness and your delivery. Kind of my thoughts.
Yeah, and I think it's a balance even from an employee's perspective. We want you to, we don't want you to have my one version of you, and then as soon as you sit in your seat and start your job, there's
Right.
a whole different version that has to show up. But there is certainly a balance. You can't bring everything every day, right?
Right.
There's still a level of professionalism that would be required, and respect for others, So there are some things that is part of being a human also. So you don't get to bring everything, but we also get to bring our everything, right? You
Right.
bring it all,
Yeah.
but you don't get to show it all. Kind of a balance.
That's right. And now we're back to the no pants thing, right? That's how that
Well, you balance it out. You put a shirt on. So.
right. So, no, I think that's good. I mean, so when you think about, how to give some help in this section, I guess feedback that I would give for folks that I've always encouraged is, learning is a lifelong opportunity. Now notice I say opportunity. It's not a requirement. Some people choose to go through life. Some people choose to go through life or grow through life. But when you want to be treated and seen as a full person, then you do have a responsibility, in my opinion, to become the best version of yourself day over day. And if you can take ownership for that part, then it will help you to get recognized in the fullness of your person, because then you can communicate more emotionally intelligent. You can be human, but you don't have to let your emotions have you as you're trying to express yourself at work. And I think that's what you're saying. And so my encouragement would be, look for books to read. And I know we talked about this year, so shout out to our marketing, but we'll provide a reading list as we go through this series of books that, we can put out, make recommendations, feel free. These are things that Mo and I read. A lot of John Maxwell stuff that we love, but there's so much other stuff out there that we read on a regular basis and share books here. And so, feel free to join our book club. I don't know that we have one. I may have officially just created one by accident, but we'll put that out there. But I think, for this, in order for it to get the most out of a human and be personal, you do have to take a responsibility to become the best person that you can be. And then I would challenge businesses out there, ours included, that we have a responsibility to continue to mature in how we handle personal matters with people. And I think that Schurz does a great job of reminding us that they're challenging themselves and challenging us as property segments as well. I just got a really cool read that was shared to me from John Reardon by Todd Schurz, The Moral of Leadership. That came in my inbox today, and so I was reading through that, and is a great reminder of those things we talk about all the time, about honoring people through the journey that is employment leadership. So I think it's cool stuff.
Yeah, I like that. And I think there is even a higher degree of responsibility and leadership of getting to know your folks. There's
Agreed.
this level of loneliness and mental health concerns with remote work. Not everyone has, family at home. Not everyone has, a big friend group that they get to see. And so if you could be that extension and help, that you remove that feeling of anonymity, that nobody notices me. When you get to know people personally and know about them and bring that up and get to build that relationship, you can help with some of that. I mean, you can't alleviate mental health, but I think it is definitely a very first step that you can help with people. Yeah.
I agree. I think it matters. Taking the time to meet somebody where they are and, get to know them and, their spouse's name, their kids' names, their dog's names, their interests, right? Getting to know a person and accepting them for who they are, not trying to change them into who you think they should be, right? Is high value. And, relationships are life. So you're right. And I love it when people tell me, I'm not a people person. well then, welcome to planet Earth because there's a whole lot of people, right? So,
That's
so
right.
it's a choice. Yeah, it's good. It's good wisdom. Well, cool. This was a fun section. I like this one
Yeah,
today.
that's
Yeah,
good.
I think it was cool. So, well, feel free to, send us your thoughts on maybe books that you like as well as we start to talk more about topics like this and share your stories. Our marketing department's amazing, so we can start to integrate that stuff into this season. We love feedback coming from,
Yes.
maybe the one person watching this.
But they're going to have great feedback.
But man, are they going to have great feedback, right? So that'll be good. I love it.
All right, so now we get to have Brian Hoekelman join us. He is our Vice President of Product and Business Development, and he is joining us to talk about surviving the Broadcom acquisition. Welcome, Brian.
That's
Awesome.
awesome. Welcome, Brian.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Glad to be here today.
That's cool. Well, so industry's going through crazy change, right? And um, for a lot of people, I know that they've said like, this seems overnight, but it's been a 2 year journey. This has been a 2 year journey of, Broadcom making the acquisition of VMware and so many questions that are out there. And so, why don't we start with Brian? Like, give a little bit of background. You've been in this industry for a minute and you've seen some things and you probably have some context that you'd like to give on Broadcom. So, the floor is yours. We're really excited for folks to get to hear from you and you have so much to offer. So thanks for hanging out with us. Well, maybe his video it just went away. See you, Brian.
You
All
got
right.
cold feet. The
All
podcast
right.
is too much.
All right.
So that was awesome timing.
The technology is solid. It's stable. So yeah. So thanks a lot for having me. I'm really excited to talk about the topic. It's top of mind for so many people in the industry right now, because it's injecting change, right? Change is going to happen, and so people have to be prepared. And there's a little bit of FUD out there, fear, uncertainty, and doubt, because we don't have all the data that we want and that we need to make informed decisions. So here at Otava, we are setting up a blog post and a in the know kind of registration so that we can share information in real time. So I encourage everyone to get onto the website, get onto our Broadcom hub and register so that you can stay current with what's going on. But let's talk a little bit about how we got here, right? And so TJ, we've talked about this over time, like the technology space, how innovation happens, the anatomy of the companies, that drive that innovation and what happens over time. And this is not surprising, right? So how did we get here? Virtualization, rewind to the early 2000s, right? Virtualization is just starting to accelerate. Cloud is really not, in the market yet. And so what do you do as an organization? You try to take share. And that's exactly what VMware did, right? So they looked at their organizational design, they looked at their technology, and they looked at their distribution channel. And they did two things, right? They built a reseller and distributor distribution channel, and they created VCPP, which is the VMware Cloud Provider Program, which has had a couple different names, but that's really where they were. And the outcome of that strategy was they drove an incredible TAM and market position. So if you look at enterprise customers today, there's a variety of hypervisors out there, but north of 85% of those virtualized hypervisors being used are VMware, right? So hats off, guys. Like, you did a great job of taking share and owning the market. So what happens next? And typically what happens in these types of circumstances is there's consolidation, right? And there's streamlining how you're managing the base of customers. And we can get into this a little bit, but the outcome of driving a market driving market adoption and owning a market space is you have some sprawl in terms of your distributors and how you're getting your product to market. And now we're in a consolidation phase, right? So people want to streamline that, they want to consolidate, and then they want to drive efficiency in work streams and operations models. And so that's what Broadcom's going to do. That's where we're at.
I love it. Thank you. I think your intro and how you broke that down for folks is really helpful, because a lot of times we're pretty narrow-minded as humans. So we kind of focus like, right now, how does this affect me? This feels unfair. Instead of rewinding the clock, to your point, this is 2.5 decades of leadership in an area that fundamentally changed computing. Like, it's unbelievable what has happened with the introduction of hardware abstraction and what it's opened up for even other competitors in the space, right? And that's what this is all about. But, at a high level, to your point, I think some things that, we want to talk about today with you and help people to understand is, I'll use the Kansas City Chiefs. Mo loves the Kansas City Chiefs. She's from Kansas. She's super happy right now. She's flying high, rightfully so, right? Sorry for all the Niners fans out there. But everybody loves to hate the winner, right? Like, as humans, you root against the winner. You root against the dynasty. And VMware's taken a lot of pot shots for being so big. And in the 90s, the telcos did that, right? And then now all of a sudden it's VMware. They're the incumbent. But let's talk about what this actually means and why this consolidation is exciting. Like, what's the good news in it? They're not going anywhere. Broadcom said in a recent press release they would have paid more money than they paid for VMware because they saw there's tremendous value in this relationship. But certainly, I think, said differently, you have to slow down to speed up sometimes. And I think that that's what you're seeing right now. So talk about that in consolidation. What does that actually mean? How does Otava fit into that? And what should customers not be worried about versus what should they be interested in? Would love your feedback.
Well, I think when you go through this consolidation phase, right? So again, let's think about how you built up the VCPP program as an example, right? So basically VMware was trying to get every possible MSP out there on their platform, and they did a great job of that. They had 4,500 participants in the VCPP program, and there's it's the 80-20 rule, right? So 20% of those partners were really driving 80% of the value and the volume. And so as Broadcom takes over the reins here, they want to try to drive efficiency with management of that program, which is now going to be Advantage, right? So we know kind of where that program is going to land. But what they're trying to drive is better operational efficiencies on their side to manage those partners. And they're also trying to drive better and broader adoption of the platform, right? So there was a construct which was a little bit of a la carte in the VMware days, and it allowed a lot of MSPs to kind of have niche orientations. And that just doesn't drive for this consolidation and scale and operational efficiency that Broadcom's looking for. So what they've done with their program is they've selected, of that 4,500, they've selected 500 remaining partners who have been invited to participate in Advantage, right? And so we know the landscape, and Otava is part of that group. So we're very excited to be part of that program, and we're going to help to drive some of the objectives that they want with their current and existing customers. And so the way that they're packaging products is more inclusive, right? It's giving customers and enterprises more capabilities, and they don't have to buy a la carte little individual things. So, the VCF and the vSphere packages are all inclusive. Tanzu is part of the package now. So your container strategy and your modernization strategy around your applications is going to be, something that is frictionless in terms of how you adopt it and develop those capabilities and transform your business. And the MSPs have to be in a spot where they can facilitate that transformation. So that's where I think Otava really wins, right? So we have a great base of customers today, and we're going to migrate and develop those customers onto a VCD architecture that allows them to adopt these things in a really clean and efficient manner and get their business to the next phase. Because what we do know is while cloud and public cloud is accelerating, people still want choice, right? And there are still people who want to have, for compliance or governance reasons or whatever, they want to have more control over their environment and their data. And so I think Ottava's in a great spot to kind of fulfill and fill that gap.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I think, like Mo and I talked about this, like in season one, when we started the notice, we joke about this all the time. We were like, let's see what happens. Why not? Right. And so we spent a lot of time, we love to talk about people and leadership and culture development. We love to talk about technology, but we didn't really know, like, how do you want to use this kind of a platform? We didn't want people to feel like we're using it to sell at folks, but we wanted to educate, right, and add value. And I think that's what today represents, which is really awesome. And so, a couple things out there for folks tuning in, and you're really wanting to understand the nuances. Let's roll it back for a second and say, like, what does this actually mean? So particularly, there's two customers that are affected uniquely in this, right? So enterprise customers consuming perpetual licenses in the VMware world will move away from what was perpetual licenses to now subscription services. Now, I know that generally people have reactions, and we're human, so we tend to be extreme, either this way or that way. And they say, this is the worst or this is the best. But here's what it actually means. Subscription services give for you the ability to have a more predictable way in which you're going to evolve your lifecycle refresh, your technology and evolution. And usually you can keep a modernization schedule of about 3 years. That's kind of a good window that you can kind of look at this. Instead of in an old perpetual world, it's kind of like you buy the car and drive it till it stops working, you hope, so that you can maximize value. But that doesn't mean that you stay current and that you can capture windows of opportunity with things like Tanzu, containers, NSX, advanced networking, load balancing, things that have come out about. So for enterprise customers, I hope that you see this as an advantage. I think that it is. I know that people have mixed emotions, but it is change. And in this season, I understand real risk for a lot of folks is skill and making sure that they feel comfortable, that they understand how to take advantage of the newest features. Cost of capital in this season, because cost of capital is higher, and being quote unquote feeling like you're forced to refresh. We can talk about that. That's why the Ottavas of the world exist, is offset capital consideration, right? And what you look at. And then obviously there's the other one, which is like security, which is new features challenge you in skill and expose risk because you might not know how to protect those workloads. Again, third parties or even cloud service providers can help. A second group of customers that really generally impacted are us, the cloud service providers of the world. And really what that means is, hey, we're putting you in a position, to, as Brian said, giving you access to more of VMware or Broadcom, sorry, Hoekelman, in a simpler way, which is the VMware Cloud Foundation program, and you get everything. That doesn't mean you have to use it all. But here's the cool thing, and I think a lot of people don't say this because, again, like the Kansas City Chiefs, they want to throw shade at the winner. Generally speaking, it's about a 30 to a 35% average cost decrease in cost of ownership for the cloud service providers and out there, and that's what's been forecasted. Why? They're trying to create adoption of new products. They're trying to get ahead and create momentum into things like AI and heavier GPU workload-based architectures. And so I think there's a lot of cool things that come from this, but certainly everybody reacts to change differently. And I think change, creates a lot of perceived negativity, but that's at a high level, how this is affecting those customers. And then Ottava being a top 500 partner in that program means, we use VMware Cloud Foundation now. We're building routes for customers, particularly channel customers, especially. If you're out there and you're a smaller service provider and you're looking for a home to place workload, we can do VCF workload migration in, help you to realize cost savings faster, take advantage of feature sets, white label or resell or agent based, and get out there being competitive in the market. So I see this as a really big win if you partner with the right partners, to use that word twice. So I don't know, those are my general thoughts. Brian, how do you kind of feel about that? You've been in this space a long time and you've done a lot with it.
Yeah, I think you want to keep overused term, but you want someone who's a trusted advisor, right? Someone who's been in the space for a long time. They have a lot of cycles on the overall portfolio and technology. And then I think one of the things that we've seen initial kind of concerns about are flexibility and architectural design over time, right? So you have a lot of enterprise clients who are this is probably going to force a change, or it could force a change in terms of their consumption preference as we move from perpetual to subscription. And the subscription options you have with an MSP are flexible. So Otava will participate both in the reseller and the CSP programs under Advantage. And what that means is, if you have a client, hey, we just did a hardware refresh last year, and I just bought my licenses, they're coming up for renewal, and it's sunk capital, right? So I don't want to have to move to a new consumption model for another 24 months. And so as an MSP, what we can do is we can facilitate the renewal of those new subscription-based licenses, and when the time is appropriate, we can migrate them onto our platform if appropriate. So we give a lot of flexibility in how people are managing their IT assets and how they want to execute on that transition from CapEx, perpetual, to a subscription-based model, right? So I think that's, who can help you in the journey. So that's the actual consumption issues that you have to really, be mindful of. And then I think you're going to have, we talked about the 4,500 VCPP participants, which is now down to 500 in Advantage. And one of the things that we talk a lot about, just in terms of the support model, is around your intimacy with your provider, right? And we won't talk about other providers, but our ability to be close to our customers and the way that we work is really unique in the space, because I think a lot of these Advantage CSP partners are going to be really big, and there's some downfalls in terms of the ability to help you with those migrations, the transformation that you want to do around your application development, and some of the new features and functions that you want to deploy over time. And so I think we're in a really good spot to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I agree. To add on to that, just one last piece I'd love your opinion on is, we've heard a lot, and Gartner's great, but sometimes Gartner, as much as I love you, unless you're sponsoring our show, you also make it difficult because everybody trusts the Gartner quadrant, but yet there's a lot of read in between the lines and having to understand the nuances of that. So, but you've earned your name rights. Well, thank you. I plugged you. Send us a check. But that being said, when I think about multi-cloud, and everybody wants to talk about that, multi-cloud workload mobility, and that's been something that's been pounded away at for like the last 18 months to 2 years aggressively. I actually am really excited about the ease that migrating into VCF architecture creates this opportunity for customers that they could get much closer to an architecture deployed or refreshed that now allows them to take advantage of workload mobility and start to really take advantage of, well, I have more than one cloud, not just Broadcom VMware, but I have managed Azure, which we provide, or I have a third-party solution. And so I think that's also going to catapult some innovation in that space that folks have wanted to take advantage of that. But the reality is modernization of applications for benefit of, microservices and those related. There's also, you have major infrastructure refresh that's required to get people into workload mobility. So anytime you want to take advantage of upstack feature sets, there's a lot of retread on old architecture decisions that you made, right? So how do you feel like, you think I'm on there or off there? Like, you think it could accelerate in multi-cloud architecture? I'd love your thoughts there.
So we have a very agnostic kind of approach, right, at Otavas, right? So we are in the public cloud business, we are in the private cloud with Broadcom business, and then we can facilitate different types of use cases. And so on the Broadcom front, I think the interesting one that comes to mind is you can still have a private cloud, but we can elastically scale out into public cloud resources on a Broadcom or VMware platform, right? And so that allows you to have a model that allows you to kind of scale up and scale down if you're in a seasonal business, as an example, right? And you need a lot more capacity, in the buying season of the holidays. So I think that's where we get a ton of flexibility, just in terms of access to innovation and new technology. I think that's another category where we really have a public cloud advantage that allows you to keep how you've been doing business for a long time. And so this is from a technology adoption perspective. You rip and replace on everything that you've come familiar with around your the VMware operating model is not going to go away, right? So you're not replacing skill sets. You have a consistent architecture. You're not re-engineering everything in your own IT infrastructure. But in our multi-cloud ecosystem, what you do have is the ability to, for greenfield workloads, for dev test, for AI ML tool sets, as well as resources, you now have the ability to kind of integrate that into your existing Broadcom VMware architecture, and it feels like one environment. So I think that's
cool.
I think that's where we're really going to have a leg up on what other people are doing out there.
Yeah, that's cool. Well, so for everybody kind of watching, and you've done an awesome job in your team of organizing, as up-to-date information as we get, and pushing it out there in message campaigns, digital strategies. How can folks stay up to date with us? Where would you steer them to get more real-time information from us as this continues to unfold in the coming couple of months?
Right. So you can have the confidence that Otava is in the program, right? So we've met the deadline, we've made our submissions, we're in the program. I mentioned in the know on the Otava website. You can find that information, register, and we're actually going to behind the scenes. We'll have public domain information that we're going to share. That's high level information about all the program announcements that we're getting from Broadcom right now. But then we're also going to have kind of more specific information for enterprise and MSP partners for Otava, so that they can make some really good calculated decisions around how they want to navigate this transition. And those are very different audiences. We didn't get too deep into it, but we can, obviously help that enterprise with their transition strategy. And the MSPs who didn't make the Advantage program, they still have a line of business that they want to run, and that they need to be enabled through a third party, and that third party could be Otava. And that will allow them, like you were mentioning earlier, some of the licensing costs are actually coming down. We can resell those licenses or host that environment, and they can continue with their existing line of business and expand as appropriate based on their corporate strategy. So I think those two pieces, those two cohorts of customers, we're going to have very detailed and specific information about all the ins and outs of how the licensing is going to work through a consumption model with Otava.
That's cool. That's awesome. Well, thanks, Brian. I appreciate it. Do you have any other final plugs that you want to put out there and share?
Hey, it's part one. I'd love to do more cameos, so get me on the schedule. And excited that the Notice is moving into the second season and taking on some more breadth in terms of the topics that you guys are talking about.
Us too. This is really cool. Thanks so much for spending time with us, Brian. You're awesome.
So that's a wrap for our first episode of season 2. Coming up next, we are going to have some talented women in technology on the podcast, and we're going to celebrate International Women's Day as part of that.
Awesome.
And we have some great ones to bring on. I'm excited about Ioana. This will be our first out-of-country guest joining us from Romania, so that'll be really
we're
fun.
Global. We're global.
Yes, so fun. And she'll be wonderful. So now the world will fall in love with her as we
That's right.
have, so it'll be good. So that's it. Follow us, like us, share, give us feedback, and until next time, do a decision.
Do a decision.